So thank you for being there at Troplong-Mondot today for the presentation of this new vintage 2025. Just give you a short introduction about what is Troplong-Mondot and where we are located. So Troplong-Mondot is the first classified grove from Saint-Emilion. We are at the highest point, and you will see that on the video perhaps just after, highest point of all the appellation. Troplong-Mondot is located at 110 meters high, which is the highest point. We have 27 hectares of vineyards dedicated to Troplong-Mondot, which is here. We are surrounded by our vineyard. Actually, right now we are speaking into this area in the main buildings. And then we have Mondot, our single estate next to Troplong-Mondot, which is 10 hectares of vines, a blend of Cabernet Franc and a blend of high majority of Merlot for Mondot. Back to Troplong-Mondot, a blend majority as well is the Merlot, 85% Merlot here, and then we have a high proportion of Cabernet Sauvignon, 13%, and only 2% of Cabernet Franc on the top. Two main big terroirs at Troplong-Mondot, the one which is on the clay, on the top here. We have a layer of clay which is 12 meters deep on the top, and it will bring the density that we will find in Troplong-Mondot. You know, Troplong-Mondot has a reputation to have a heavy and dense, high density into his wines. It's where we plant our Cabernet Sauvignon. And on the opposite side, we have the limestone, the pure limestone from Saint-Emilion. That's going to bring us the freshness, the aromatic, and this is where we plant the majority of our Merlot ground. So when we blend, because in Bordeaux this is the art of blending, when we blend it, we're going to have a beautiful wines, very well balanced, with amazing complexity, and once again a lot of freshness and purity. And so 25 vintage now. So 25 vintage, we are very happy for sure with the quality. Global general things regarding the 25 vintage. The blood flowers start normally, I would say it's the average vintage. We start on 26th of March, and then step by step we had which is a rainy spring, which is in the average also of the past 20 years. A bit of rain, as I say, April, May, and then it started to be drier and drier. So end of May till June was beautiful dry end of spring, and then in July we had a quite early veraison. You know, the veraison, it has a big impact for the yield as well, and so this veraison starts on 21 of July and finish nearly quite faster compared to the previous vintage. 24 we start in 31 of July, which is nearly August, and it has an impact on the veraison, on the production, because the main issue on this vintage remain the yield we had on this vintage. The second point, and I will explain you back after that, and the second point is in August. We had a very, very hot summer. I don't know where you've been during this summer, but it was quite hot all around the south of Europe, and Bordeaux was impacted a lot. And we had a dry wind nearly in the middle of August. That's dry a lot of our berry, especially on the west side. So we start the harvest, the earliest harvest ever in the history of Troplong-Mondot, 28th of August. 22 was 29. So this is the second earliest harvest ever did here. We are even the earliest one in the area, in the total Bordeaux. In 2025 vintage. And we finish on 25 of September. So nearly 1 month, which was a peaceful harvest. Beautiful vinification moment. Malolactic were quite fast. And then we start our blending in December. We finish early January, because at Troplong-Mondot we blend our wines before aging. Okay, that's important. That's a very important point. And then the aging starts mid-January, and is done in the barrel that you will see just after. I will bring you there. And our barrel age this year, average is 50% new oak. This is the average now since few vintage. And we will have 40% in cask of 20 hectoliter from Stockinger in Austria, and a part of Taranto. Divide by 2.
Perhaps it would perhaps be a good idea. I mean, there are older clients who know Troplong-Mondot with the vintage 2000, 2005, 2009. Yeah. And then you know, I'm a great fan and quite an advocate of 22, because I mean, with all the richness of the vintage, it still has the brilliance and the clear, so it's very bright. And so I keep telling people you have to taste 22 young and to see the difference what's going on here. And because sometimes the problem, especially in Bordeaux, you have the normal client, he buys a case of a wine and then he puts it away for 15 years.
Yeah.
And so things happen in between, and so all of a sudden, things have changed, and the clients hadn't realized it. So I think this is an important point. Just well, apparently it is now a different philosophy here than it used to be before, and I think that's something would be interesting in short there.
Yeah, exactly. You're right completely, because in 2017, Émeric de Gironde, which is the current CEO right now, arrived at Troplong-Mondot at the time, and it changed radically the way, the approach of winemaking. So starting from 17, our main target was to reach much more complexity into our wines, bring more precision as well, bring freshness, much more freshness, drinkability on the youth, which is very important, as you mentioned. Nowadays, we don't need to wait 15 years to drink Troplong-Mondot. And so, how do we succeed to do that? The first point is to harvest much more earlier than we used to do before. Like a 16 vintage, the harvest starts perhaps end of September. With the approach of Émeric, it will start early September, perhaps even end of August, which is the current point. Because now we try to collect the berry at the right time, where we see that the berry will express the sense of place, that will reflect our terroir. This is the main point. And so by doing that, harvesting earlier, doing cold maceration. The cold maceration is very important. It's a kind of, easily to understand, it's a kind of tea infusion. During 7 to 15 days, it will depend of the profile of the plots we put into a vat. We will let it 7 to 15 days there, and then we will start the classic fermentation with much less extraction than we used to do before. So it's nearly four pumping days. We don't do any more pigeage to preserve the purity and the expression of the fruit that we try to have. And then, as I say, starting from since 2019 vintage, we don't do anymore our malolactic in barrels. So it has a big impact for the blend and for the when we will be influenced. We have less influence into the taste of the oak during the blend, and that's why I think we make a step starting from 2019 thanks to this fact. So the result, as you mentioned, the 22 vintage has an amazing drinkability, even low. It's crazy. The 23 we tried a few months ago, it's crazy too. I mean, it's very nice to drink, to appreciate. You have a beautiful fruit, nice energy, amazing energy, I would say, a beautiful freshness too, and it's very, very nice to appreciate on his youth. Yeah, definitely. Thanks to so Troplong 2025. I explained globally the large things on that. The alcohol degrees, like 13.5. The pH here it's 343. So that's
The 22 is 50 and the 25 is 13.5.
Alors, there is also a reason for that, is that we had, due to this very hot wind we had to do a double sorting. It never happens before. We start on 28, so on 29 we start the sorting, and we realized that if we were missing some small grapes, dry grapes, completely overcooked grapes, it won't be qualitative enough. So we have to be very, very rigorous on the sorting. So that's why we asked for a second optical trial machine. And so we put a team before. We were 4 or 6 on the table, all together, all the team, and then the first optical trio was making a first sorting, and the second team by Has was checking, and then a second time for the second optical trio. So that's why also we have selected the best berry, and also it's part of the reason why we had such a nice alcohol degree.
1.5 degrees. I mean, that's
and for the vintage, with the sun we had on July and August, it's really impressive.
Normally you wouldn't think that fits together.
No, exactly. And the second point also, it's a very important one. The floral initiation starts at the years before, on 24. And what happened on 24, I don't know if you remember, but the weather was not the best. And so it has a big impact. So usually Troplong, we produce average of 50 hectoliters per year. That time, we lost nearly, I would say, 20% of the potential production because of the floral initiation that time. So we might be around 35. It's nothing happened in August. If it was only a problem of floral initiation, it will be 35, potentially 38 hectoliters per hectare. And then additionally, in August, we have this situation of completely overripe berry that we have to sort to, and so we fall to 27 hectares, to 27 hectoliters per hectare that year.
Yeah.
That's the final production we have in Troplong-Mondot, which is nearly divided by 2 compared to 23 or 22 vintage. So this 25 as for me it's on the line of a 22, even 23 with a beautiful energy, amazing red fruit. This is a pure red fruit. There is no overripeness.
It has loads of tannins, but it's so fine and it's so drinkable, and it's, I mean, it's, nowadays you can't say it anymore. It's so it has in a certain way it has a right. The art of exuberance is highly performed.
Yeah.
It's somewhere. The feeling is as if the wine was lifting me up.
Yeah.
Well, exploding you up. Really.
Yes. And it has great tension, very vertical, it's not, it's...
It has a great structure.
Yeah, the structure. The blend, I forget to mention, but the blend remained nearly the same vintage after vintage nowadays. It's 85 Merlot, 13 Cabernet Sauvignon, and these 2% of Cabernet Franc that we have, even on 25 years.
This is really amazing. I mean, normally if you just put the facts together, I mean, you would never expect a wine like this. Well,
yeah, the alcohol degrees, I agree on that. The freshness, the purity. Yeah, it's true.
But this is on clay?
Alors, you have the clay, you see here. Alors,
okay.
on the top, what we saw here, it's our clay, and so the layer is 12 meters deep on the top, and progressively is decreasing until reaching like almost, I would say, near pure limestone.
Exactly.
And that's why also we always have this layer of clay. That's why the Cabernet Franc is not fitting quite well here at Troplong, because our the only Franc we have, plots of Franc is here. And then you have Trotevier there, where you know Trotevier has a high majority of Cabernet Franc. And this is the magical stuff of Saint-Emilion and the terroir, the Grand Terroir. That from like less than a kilometer, less than 500 meters, we have the blend of Trotevier is oppositely, completely the opposite of us. They have 50% Cabernet Franc, I think.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, you're at one point you are neighbors, and I mean, the wines of Troplong in Troplong-Mondot couldn't be different.
Exactly. Yeah. They are both great wines, but completely different on the blend. Yeah, that's crazy.
But this is energy, brightness. I mean, it's very lively.
Yeah, and also the elegance. That's what we heard a lot. If you compare the previous vintage in the past, here you have it's very velvet it's very, very elegant and much more precise than it used to be. This is exactly the reflection of our terroir. We didn't create nothing. We just follow the nature and follow what our terroir brings to us.
And in some respect, which is not meant to be disrespectful. I mean, you had a lot less work with 25 than with 24.
Yes, of course. Yeah, less pressure. It's I would say it's not a vintage of lazy vintage, but it's true that we have less pressure, especially on the mildew side. We didn't suffer from any mildew, and even on the top vintage. You know, we used to say that Troplong overperform on top vintage because we have this exposition, we never suffer from frost, because the fact that we are on the top of this hill, we never have any humidity into our vineyards, so this is the first point. And for the mildew pressure, we have a big natural fan, which is the fact to be on the top of this hill, and it's always a bit windy. So it helps a lot to dry when you have too much humidity.
You have a natural aeration.
Exactly. See, we have all the exposition here, and it's a hill. So the altitude has a big impact too. It means that, for example, if you take this Merlot on the east side won't express the same aromatic than the one on the west side with different exposition, and it helps a lot when we blend our wines. And see, we are replanting our 1.8 hectares now. It was 2 years ago now, and the reason, the first reason is that it was planted on the wrong side.
Yeah.
Because at that time they were facing east to west, so all day long we had a big exposition. So we will
don't want that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And now the main reason is that you see here it's north and south, it's planted like that, but there they planted like that in the past because they wanted to follow we have a carrière, the entrance of the carrière, and they wanted to follow the bush next to the carrière. So that was the main reason. And it was full Merlot, and we will replant 1/3 of Merlot, 1/3 of Cabernet Sauvignon, and 1/3 of Cabernet Franc. Yeah. So we're gonna even change the blending.
But you have I guess that you have a replantation cycle anyway, in some respect. Yeah.
Exactly. It starts with Christine Valette. Christine did a big job in 1996. She started to replant. So at the end, if you look at the date of plantation of each parcels, we have an average age which is below 40 years, 35, 36 years old now. So it's quite young, but we need that at Troplong-Mondot. We don't need to have very old vine, we need to have a heavy production because of our terroir. And
otherwise the wines would be too...
Exactly, too heavy. And we need to have more production to make the grape enter in competition with the other one and be more complex as well. So, yeah.
This is very fascinating. I think one of the tasks is then to, there's a picture of a wine in the market and you can't help it, it stays in the market. And so it's to transport the idea, the philosophy of this is quite a task, but this is so amazing, so drinkable and so enjoyable. I mean, you could just drink it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks a lot.
No, my pleasure. If you want, we can go.